Jonathan? He just muted up. Everybody muted. There you go. You hear us? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna mute everybody again. We'll get you going when we get started.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. We're running lean and mean here this evening. It may appear that we don't have a quorum here at the table, but we do because Select Board Member West is attending by Zoom. It takes 3 to make a quorum, but what that means is if we are to take any action here this evening, it would require unanimous vote of the 3 attending, because that would constitute a majority of the board. So if we take any actions, we're going to have unanimity. Start by calling the meeting to order and ask those of us in the room to rise and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we're at the point in the meeting where I open it up for public comments. This is open to anything that's not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, we'll just wait until it comes up in the course of the meeting. Does anybody wish to make any public comment? Seeing none, I guess I don't have to tell you that I'll limit it to 5 minutes per speaker. We need to approve the minutes from 12:2 and 12:5. Luckily, all 3 of us were at both meetings, so we could approve it.
Move to approve the minutes from 12:2 and 12:5.
Second.
Seconded by Jonathan. All in favor, say aye.
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 And the 2 sets of minutes are approved. We're blessed to have Nick Ziak here in attendance. He's been leading us through this Tier 1B designation and the Tier 2B. But this is a little bit of a twist to the discussion about extending the designation or expanding the designation to Airport Road. Nick, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Can someone enable sharing, and I can show us some exhibits on the screen. Let's see.
I might, while you're just pulling that up, mention that you look very festive in your appropriately colored sweater this evening.
Thank you. I think someone's going to have to enable the sharing on your end or temporarily make me a co-host of the meeting to be able to share the slides.
I see it now. I think you should be good, Nick.
Awesome. It's still saying sharing is not turned on.
Is it on?
Let's see. In any case, I can just move forward without the deck. Okay, so long and short of it is the latest developments in with regard to Airport Road have opened to some new possibilities for adding the Tier 1B designation to the airport area. Previously, the area did not qualify because it did not qualify for being mapped on our future land use maps as a planned growth area. And that primarily has to do with lack of clarity on the water sewer access to the area, as well as the lack of bike and pedestrian infrastructure that are required parts of being in a planned growth area. So with your new developments on this, we have some clarity on the water sewer access. We know the water sewer is close generally, but you have some pretty clear possibilities of, if not getting them there, getting them close enough. But you will need to make some amendments to your capital plan to address the lack of pedestrian access. So for those watching at home, I'll also note that this is the area down that that is currently mapped mixed use 2 on your town zoning maps. So it's all mapped in the same way or zoned in the same way as the areas further north that do qualify, because they do have the existing sidewalks and they do have the clarity on the water sewer. So, in order to get this extension, validate this tier 1B status, get and map this into the planned growth area, you guys have the opportunity to make the adjustments now to make that work. So to do that, what you'll need to do will be make a motion to authorize the town manager to adjust the town capital plan to include an extension of a sidewalk, bike lane, or other pedestrian or bicycle infrastructure to the airport road parcel. And then we would need a sense of the board to acknowledge the amendment to the Tier 1B boundary to, as previously approved, to include the entirety of the southern mixed-use 2 zone. So those are the two pieces that we would need to make that work. And importantly, this does not require you to program any capital right now, but it does need to be in your plans to get that infrastructure there. So that's the long and short of this. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Nick, what do you need from the board tonight?
We would just need a motion to authorize Scott to build the bicycle or pedestrian access to the airport road area into the town capital plan. That's the motion.
Okay.
And,
So it's, yeah.
and would we, excuse me, Jonathan, would we need to also act to expand the borders of the Tier 1B to include the whole southern
As
portion?
long as there's a sense of the board, as long as there's no one who objects to it, and because you're on a bare quorum, if anyone objects, you couldn't do it. So if it's a sense of the board, you've already passed the Tier 1B resolution. This is just mapping an extra area into the boundaries. So as long as you're in agreement with that, that this amendment wouldn't cause you to not want to have a Tier 1B for the entire planned growth area, then you're fine. You don't need to take any new action. The resolution you've already signed is good enough. BCRC does retain the ability to tweak the boundaries of these areas as appropriate and per state mapping guidance. And so you're fine on that. We just need the one little piece so that when it goes up to the land use review board, they don't come back to us and say, we need a copy of the town capital plan that says there's going to be a sidewalk there someday. Because that is what's happening elsewhere in the state. And unfortunately, some of the towns are having to remove areas from Tier 1B and the planned growth areas because they didn't plan to put sidewalks to these areas that they hope to see growth.
Understood.
So thank you, Nick. One of the things I wanted to point out is the original intent for members of the Housing Task Force approaching the state and BCRC for assistance was because we wanted to try and get those Tier 1B, or at that point it was the housing exemptions, out to that parcel because we believed it would help be a catalyst for development without a lot of the barriers of Act 250 because of the getting a shovel in the ground by end of 2026 or whatever the date was. So my belief is that this is a great opportunity to fulfill that wish, that we could get it that far. And obviously the motion that Nick is calling for the amendment to the capital plan is not saying you have to build a sidewalk. The motion is to authorize the town manager to put it into the capital plan. So it's like the preliminary step, right? So It's not saying you're going to go build a sidewalk, although obviously the state hopes that and wishes that we do. But yeah, it's more of the preliminary steps.
Yep. If these all had to be funded, there wouldn't be planned growth areas in the state. There's nowhere near enough funding to build enough sidewalks to support the housing growth that we need right now. So they're very much of the mindset we need to be. This is also a lot of this is about diverting car traffic because Tier 1B is reducing the amount of like traffic studies that are going to need to be done in the areas. So this is a measure that's meant to offset some of the future traffic loading that's coming from these growth areas statewide.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to adjust the town capital plan to include bike and pedestrian access to the airport road property.
Second.
Moving second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Or aye.
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 That appears to be 3-0. And thank you, Nick, for that explanation.
Oh wait,
Awesome.
but we do need to make, because the amendment that you made, I'm sorry, just now was just to authorize for the capital plan. Was it to also include the airport property?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. My headphones cut out at that last second. So, okay, we're good. Thank you.
Yeah, the motion itself did not specifically speak to expanding the Tier 1B zone to include the rest of the southernmost part of the MU2. But apparently we don't have to do that at this point in time.
We're okay with that, Nick?
That's awesome. That's all I need. I'll be able to point to the minutes of this when we hear from the land use review board on this. So thank you.
Hey,
When
Nick,
is the plan for that? What is the date? I forget.
We will be submitting the preliminary application in April. So we'll hear back within 30 days of that preliminary application, or 30 to 60 days of that. So this will all be live next summer, and
Good.
it's just going to be a matter of so yeah, we've seen the land use review board has 30 days to get back to the region. So we'll know if we need like the copy of the capital plan sometime in like next May, next June to validate this if it
Apparently we
gets
have
back to
somebody
us.
waiting in the waiting room. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Nick,
Okay,
before
thank you.
go-
Good night.
Before you go, do you have any updates on the Tier 3 situation? Because I've got an update from the BLCT that I'm going to distribute tonight, and I didn't know if you had any inside information.
I have not. I've been following this pretty closely, and the mapping continues to, for Manchester, really make a meaningful difference in Act 250 expansion, specifically in the area along Richville Road. That remains the area of impact in Manchester. Most prominently, that is an area with a large habitat block to the east, and that connects to the river area to the west and south in southern Manchester. So that is an area that remains almost certain to have an Act 250 expansion to it, and I've certainly also been following what the Rural Caucus has been talking about on this, that the Rural Caucus of the legislature is hoping to require notice to all affected landowners. That is a new thing that's coming out of a large group of legislators that they are hoping to require notice to all people who now would have Tier 3 areas on their property. That is not set in legislation yet, and I do not believe any of Manchester's legislators are in the Rural Caucus, but that may be something you want to talk to the legislators from Manchester, see if they are in agreement with the Rural Caucus on those notice requirements that will make a really meaningful impact on making sure those who now face 250 jurisdiction on their properties know that they have to go and get a state permit to do something as small as building a house, in some cases. So definitely watch that, see, and we hope to get a little bit more clarity as we get close to the legislative session.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Night.
So I'll distribute that later and then electronically send it to the others.
Moving right along.
Yeah, moving right along. The next agenda item is the ongoing review of the fiscal year 2027 draft budget. As most of you know, on December 5th, we had an all-day meeting over at the Park House, where we had each department come in and we went over the recommended or the request and Scott's modification on each department for the town. There's some noise in the budget, and some numbers that are skewed by the fact that at least the library has been moved from appropriations into the meat of the budget. We spoke about that at the time and we approved that move, and I think it's in the benefit of both the library and the town to have it in the budget so we can discuss it and get a chance to know what that number is prior to town meeting. And we also put in place an escalation clause, which keeps it in check with the overall budget itself. So that's the biggest move, but there's other things as well, Scott.
Right, and so the memo that I sent with the budget for you, it just includes the changes that we talked about at that Friday meeting. And I'll just quickly go over those. So in the fire department budget, they had last year, we had left out air compressors. So we ended up having to buy them on a 3-year lease purchase option. And so last year well, it's actually this year's first payment, but the budget you had last Friday didn't include that second payment. So we've added that in there. And then along with their other proposal increases, that puts them substantially higher, almost 45% their overall budget. And then the other minor changes that we made during that day, the market value gain on line 283, we dropped to 0 from 1,000. Water department, we deleted the 15,500 from the unrealized gains on investment, which was line 12 in the water budget. We changed the system maintenance from 40,000 to 45,000 in the water budget, which was line 42. And then back to the regular general fund budget, we have the Habitat for Humanity. They're seeking 5,000 as appropriation. That's not included at this time, up from 2,400. And then GNAT, which is not an appropriation any longer, is seeking 7,175, up from 2,000, which is line 340 in the general fund budget. And then I just want to remind the board about the deadlines. First day to warn the town warning is January 22nd. Last day is February 1st. Last day to file petitions for articles is January 15th. And the last day to file petitions for public office is January 26th. And you also have a copy of the Schwab investment balances, which we did have on a Friday, but then those specific purpose funds are also included there now. In your review. So, having said that, and with our limited audience here, I don't know how deep you want to go, but I do have some bullet points that we could talk about and ways to lower the current budget, which is just over 7% increase.
Scott, did we, there was one, we discussed potentially moving around where whether something was a capital expense versus a, I think was it regarding the payment to the fund for like the
Yeah, right,
fire? Did we
right.
make
And
that change?
that was just an accounting procedure, so it wasn't gonna affect the budget, it was still gonna be in there, it was
Right.
just gonna be in a different location. So I didn't check to see if Mike had moved that yet, but it's still there, it's not gonna affect, it's just being relocated within the budget.
Okay.
So just a couple quick points in areas, before I really get into it. So the fire department wages is up 57% in 2 years. And that may be one area you could look at.
You were,
With the intent to continue the wage increase process, again, next year too, rather than jump it all so quickly. The equipment acquisition is more than doubled that on line 173, also in the fire department there. Which is another area you might want to consider. But finally, something we really can sink our teeth into at the moment. So there's 3 ways to help with this is increase revenue, decrease expenses, or both, right? So in the first step, we're going to try to decrease the expenses. So lines 154, 215, and line 324, that's all the cleaning budget. So if you remember, we talked about hiring a part-time cleaner, which we just did this last few days. By hiring her, we're going to save up to $25,000 reduction. So I'm going to, next time we meet, I will reduce those in those 3 line items to reflect that cost. We had 79,400 built in there right now. We're going to reduce that to 54,400. All right, so that's one thing. Then the revenue side, if you remember, the local option tax got changed, got amended. So it's no longer a 70-30 split. It's now a 25-75 split. We didn't put that into our revenue side. So being conservative on the estimate of that, if we increase line 418, which is the sales side of the local option tax, if we increase that by 75,000 to 950 from 875, and then if we increase line 419, which is the rooms and meals and alcohol line, by 25,000 from 550 to 575, that'll give us 100,000 more in revenue. And that's still staying conservative. The local option tax hopefully will stay steady. So just making those 2 changes can get us down below 5% to the 4-7 range right
is
now.
that 5% number, are we talking, is that an apples to apples number, or is that?
It's an apples to apples after appropriations and without a change to Habitat for Humanity request.
So, but I guess my question is, that's 5% with the library?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, what we look at is the impact to the amount to be raised by taxes. You're taking that into consideration when you're talking about the 4.7%.
Right, right.
That's the amount to be raised by taxes.
Correct.
And does that leave just those adjustments leaves the fire department number
Untouched.
touch?
But we also have to address the GNet request too.
I mean, she made a pretty compelling case in that, when you think of the public good that it does and the fact that they haven't, if we were paying somebody to get these meetings recorded and online, it would be.
Yeah, even just the storage and the server costs and the maintenance of all of that would far outweigh the services that we receive from them. So it's really I think a no-brainer. Because if we don't have that, it makes it that much less accessible for folks. And we're not really bearing the full brunt of it, even at that, right? I think we're meeting in the middle, I think.
Yeah, I think the total cost was double that amount. I think she was somewhere in the $14,000 range.
So if you're willing, it sounds like consensus of the three that we can change that GNet figure to what they requested, the 7,000.
I think we're gonna wind up.
Yes, 100%.
That's a sense of that.
Okay.
And the request was 7,500 or 7,000.
It was
Seven-
7,175.
7175.
And that's up from 2,000. Which it's been for years.
Well, I think it would be premature for us to make a decision on this tonight because I feel like we'd want the input of the other two members. Is that okay if
No, yeah, I fully expected another
Yeah,
discussion with it,
yeah,
but I think now we're getting closer and closer and whittling it down.
Given the change in the percentages on the local option taxes, it makes sense, or certainly makes that money available, conservatively available. That's the direction we want to go. And that would still be transferring, if we hit our expected numbers, that would still be transferring something into the.
excess reserve,
Right,
yeah.
reserve, that's right.
I just noticed one quick thing though, and I know the changes from budget year 26 to 27 doesn't change the to be raised by taxes number, but it does appear, unless I have a mistake here, on line 432, which is GNAT, the budgeted for 2026 is 0.
You're probably looking to the appropriation section.
Yeah,
Oh, you're right.
It got moved
To
from
general
voted
expenses.
appropriations to an actual budget line.
Yeah.
You're right. That's my problem. I apologize. Yep, you're right.
And the other,
It's line 340.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon.
and the other.
Yeah, there we go.
Other point I just wanted to make too was, remember last year when we were kind of stuck at the end and we had done all the cutting that we could, we started and dipped into the unassigned funds section and added that. We don't have to do that this year. And so that's another substantial difference.
and I just, to go back to the fire department, I know I'm kind of a broken record on that, but I did go through some of the equipment needs that they're talking about, and this isn't like fun toys. It's all stuff that I think, if it's things that they've either waited on for a while or that they need for the new members. And I guess that would not be my first place where I'd want to start cutting at all.
I'm not really suggesting that we cut them. I think, we need to support them
Yeah,
as much as we can.
right,
But I think it's part of my job is to
I get it.
alert you to large increase.
right. But I think that might have been artificially low or not artificially, just low for a long time. And I think some of the, particularly the salary increases, it moves the needle for all the volunteers get,
Absolutely.
put all the time on the clock. And I hate to take that for granted, and I just really don't want to see that part of the budget.
And I know we're looking obviously at 27, and Heidi, you said you looked at the capital, like what was on the horizon, what was really making up those expenses. Oops. When we looked at that, and I know we looked at this last year, but do we have a sense of what's coming next year?
I do. I have pretty detailed worksheet, and then they also have like a longer term plan for the bigger pieces of equipment, but I think what we're trying to do is consistently put money into a reserve fund now, so that when these come up, that we don't have to scramble to either finance in an unfavorable environment or raise, taxes or raise capital for them.
And the expectation also was that, if I remember correctly from our December 5th meeting, was that based on the timing of the new truck that we will basically be depleting what's in the reserve account. Is that accurate? So we're going to go back to zero?
Yeah, that's a pretty new account. I mean,
True.
hopefully the
Yeah.
idea is that we'll get ahead of it and have some
Yeah.
things that we don't deplete it every time a truck comes up, but in a perfect world, it'd be okay if that happened.
The expectation is that at the point in time when they're purchasing the next truck, that fund balance will dip below zero. We're not on a course right now to have it fully fund the next purchase. So
But we're better than we were.
it's close. It's much closer than it was. Of course, the other big item that needs to be explored is on the personnel side, this budget anticipates there's more noise in the numbers too, but it anticipates a kind of across the board 5% increase for employees, which is above the COLA numbers. Of course, we don't know what they're going to be going forward, but we probably should have a discussion about that. And what the expectations are going forward in fiscal year 28 and beyond. Because if we're outperforming the index, which is cost of living, that in effect is performance raise above and beyond COLA for everybody. So
True, but I mean, just to remind you guys that you would want to keep it close with the union contract.
I understand that.
Substantially moved ahead.
Yeah.
And there is a wide gap right now.
I also think it might be wise to, if it's able to be done reasonably, to do an analysis, industry-wide analysis as to where we stand relative to other communities.
I can make it look great for us, or I can make it look,
Yeah, I figured that's
it's
gonna.
all over the map.
Yeah.
I just gotta cherry pick the right towns and it'll match up.
And also, we have to be aware that municipalities are not an island among themselves. We live in the real world and I'm sure with the talent that we have right now, that they'd be pretty marketable in the open market as far as going to the private sector.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain segments too that are less than the administrative side, maybe in that type of area, but you look at the DPW, every town is looking for somebody. And it's so hard to get someone that's decent and that's gonna be staying with us.
In the presentation from the police department, they're pretty proud of the fact, and I'm pretty proud of the fact that we're up to a full complement of officers at this point, which tells me that we're in a pretty good range as far as being competitive for talent in that area.
Rescue
And
squad.
what I was going to mention is that, in my previous work is that understanding the cost of retraining someone rather than retaining them and paying them, at a slightly higher rate, the cost of that retrain is significantly higher, and a drain on the resources than it is to pay them more appropriate.
I agree with that, Jonathan. In my lifetime here in municipal government, as well as the 20 some odd years that I spent in banking, it was over and over again, I was reminded that it was more expensive to hire somebody else than it was to retain the people that you have. And you wind up getting someone without the institutional knowledge as the person that left, and you wind up paying them more than what you were paying the person that left. So I do get that. I do understand that retention is extremely important, especially if you have good people. I think we've got really good people here.
So I'll make these changes and then we can talk about everything at the next budget discussion. When would you like to have that? January 6th is our next regularly scheduled select board meeting. We'll need to wrap this up before
We
that.
have to approve
Oh, we have to do it before that?
Yeah, last year we did the final approval of the budget on January 7th. But we had agreed to the budget prior to that.
Right.
Although a change was made that night.
This is.
I mean, we're in a, it's getting not good.
Yeah. Your calendar looks busy.
It's not good.
Yeah, beyond the discussions that we've had tonight regarding the changes that we kind of already discussed, like GNAT and the adjustment to the tax, are you thinking that it is something that we may need to look at adjusting payroll, or is it something that, given the short time frame that we have, we're 14 days to the end of the year, we're in the middle of Hanukkah now, we've got Christmas coming up and New Year's. Is there anything that's going to be a holdup with the other two members at this point?
I have had communications with other board members that were concerns, or not concerns. Ideas have been raised and a need for maybe some answers on some certain things relative to personnel. And I'd like to have that meeting. And I'd be more than happy to have that individual and myself meet with Scott and kind of work through this and ultimately take Scott's recommendation as to what's the best course of action. So,
Can I ask this question? Are we able to do, instead of having a totally different day to do this, can we have a meeting prior to the regular scheduled meeting on the 6th? Like,
we can have a
Could
meeting
we-
anytime we want.
I mean, could we meet at,
We could. I'd like to have this really close to being done
I
at that point.
I think
don't picture it happening.
there's
If there's
not a lot of huge,
No.
No.
not a huge number of areas where we need to discuss things. So I think we could get it together pretty quickly. As far as the budget goes, but
But you want to do it on a different day other than the day of that?
No, we don't have to. If we can formalize this and get close to being approved, we just need to finish it that night. So if this discussion about personnel wages, which could be a big discussion, that might require a different night or more time.
When's Greg back? Do we know?
He's just out for the Christmas party tonight.
Oh. This is,
how long is the Christmas party?
Yeah.
He said he wanted to have fun,
okay.
but then he said he does have fun at the select board.
Does anybody, I don't want to do this, but I have the 22nd, like next Monday available.
I have no life.
I will be coming back from Boston, but depending upon what time are we looking at? Are we looking at the evening again?
We move it up to
Yeah.
5.
Would we do?
It's, problem. It's a little bit easier this time of year.
Okay.
Would that work, Jonathan?
Yeah, we'll make that work.
So there's 3,
Yeah.
and then we'll just tell the other 2 that
It's literally the only blank day in my calendar.
let's book it now before it gets filled.
There, your calendar is officially full. Congratulations.
So we're saying 5.
5 on the 22nd. Okay.
So, and the only agenda item is going to be budget.
Right. And like I said, I'll amend these that we've done tonight or
Okay.
talked about. Give you the bullet point discussions to finish up.
Yeah.
And then if we have any more information and whatever you want to talk about as far as wages, personnel wages,
Okay.
I'll have more information at that meeting too.
And then could you also, if you don't mind, can you bring in our local option tax revenue, where we are to date and
Sure,
some your
yeah.
your comps again, so we just kind of, I want to get a better sense of. And then if you can just, I can do the math, but if we can look at what this, based on the calculations, what the difference between 70% and 75% like penciled out to approximately, like.
Oh, yeah. You got that number right here.
All right, I just,
Yeah,
so we just know how conservative we're being or aggressive.
yeah, yeah. Just off the top of my head, Heidi, it's about 124,000.
And so we'd be doing 100 of that?
So we're doing 100 of that.
Yeah, okay.
It would, last year we factored in a transfer from the property tax relief fund at $175,000 to try to soften the impact of that budget. This is different. This is,
Yeah.
It's our own money.
yeah, it's our own money and
Coming to us whether we
and it
want it or not.
anticipates, if we're comfortable with the numbers, it anticipates transferring money into the relief fund.
But I guess I just want to see what the trends are because we don't know what.
Yeah, I have that. Mike
Yeah.
gives it to me every quarter. I send it to John Burnham and.
Yeah, no, I know, I've seen it. I just like to.
Yeah. I'll bring it.
Thank you.
Does anybody anticipate any other area where we would be looking at talking about the budget? Any big items? I'm going to go back through it. There's not a lot there without impacting the department's ability to do its job.
Right.
So we will have that meeting on the 20, was it 20?
22nd. Sorry. 5 o'clock.
Yeah, but a member from the.
Oh, go.
Yeah, just a question, we were talking about, percentage increases, are you comparing a Macintosh Apple to a Macintosh Apple? Because this year, the budget numbers will include the library. And maybe one of them former voter that's appreciation, appropriation. But when you compare it to last year's budget, that library is outside the budget. Right. So
That's why Scott included voted appropriations into last year's and
That's what I'm saying.
in order to.
We're doing apples to apples.
It's
Yeah, the numbers, we're using.
Granny Smith to Granny Smith.
Yeah.
There's a budget over there in the table, Bill, if you wanted to grab it.
Mike's got his hand up too.
But Mike,
Mike
Yeah.
Norath.
Otherwise it'd be like 13% bill or something like that. Right? Yeah.
That's big.
And the second thing is related to, the 5% that we're getting. My understanding is we need to keep the heat on the legislatures. Is it saying there is enough surplus in the fund that the state keeps to, return 10%? And the legislature very cautiously only said we're gonna give 5% back. And we really deserve another 5% back.
We came into the, when I say we, I wasn't in the conversation at all, but the municipalities came into the conversation pretty late in the
Pretty
game.
late in the game, yeah.
And after the fact, it was we were kind of told, boy, if you had asked for 80% instead of 75, you might have gotten it. So I agree with you. There might be more capacity there going forward.
so, last year when I testified at the committee, when they were discussing the lowering from 80 to 75%, several members of the committee didn't understand the local option tax and didn't know the history of it. And they said, if you had come to us earlier, we might have considered the whole 10%. They said, why don't you try again next year? So yesterday, VLCT had its first legislative update. So we all joined in, and after the meeting, that wasn't brought up as one of their priorities. So I sent an email off to Josh Hanford and said, hey, if you want to push for this other 5%, I'd be willing to testify or get our legislators behind it too. And I said, I know we had a good win last year, but, and then they kind of back off because they see so many fights that are coming up. But, this one is money in our pocket. And if it doesn't hurt to ask.
Sitting here doing nothing.
And that's the other piece, the pilot, the money that they pay, that's growing, and the legislation is gonna reach into that soon if they don't do something with that. So
Leave it there, yeah.
Mike still has his hand up.
Mike,
Yeah, I lost my connection for a while during this meeting, so I don't know if you've discussed this. But I thought at the December 5th meeting, you had agreed you were going to add back in the column of FY 25 budgeted.
oh, yeah, we
We
didn't.
haven't done that yet.
We didn't discuss it here this evening. And that, of course, it would come under the discussion of the town report. But I think we all agreed that that was a reasonable idea and would make it easier to compare numbers to numbers. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
great.
thank you for bringing that up again. We'll make sure that it stays in the mix.
Good. Thank you.
Anything else under budget discussion? Mike, I'm assuming your hand is just still up from your previous request. There, it's gone, okay. So Scott, town manager updates.
Yeah, so Michael Allen from Regrowth Planners is seeking, public input any way they can, and he's conducting interviews here with staff members and other people, but they're actually having a public forum on January 20th at Tuesday, January 20th, 5:30 to 7 at the library. And so I just want to give you a heads up on that.
They were handing things out at the tractor parade.
Tractor parade.
Yeah. They did. They had like little bracelets that had a little thing on it that said. "Come to
QR
this."
code and you
Yeah.
could QR
That was
code
such
off
a
your
great
reg.
idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're really, really reaching out to get public input. They want public input, so I'm encouraging public
Right.
to give their
For
input.
what that's worth, that is scheduled as that is a meeting night for us too. Because if we're on the 6th as our next one, the 20th would be the next meeting. So I know ours is at 7 and they're holding at 5:30. I just wanted to put that out there.
Do we have any idea, how long does that meeting anticipate?
So it's 5:30 or 7.
5:30 to 7, because I think I would like to be there for that. So,
Absolutely.
Hard stop.
Just continue your meeting there after that.
um, now you're messing with tradition.
Yeah.
That's not.
Save a little travel expense.
So the other thing was that rail trail crossing update I sent, included in your packet. So Attorney Thrasher had sent us a letter addressed to the select board, I believe, and I had Merrill review his comments in the letter and she responded quite in depth. And so I forwarded that back to him. And haven't heard back. And that's just how it works. You comment, it goes back and forth and then disappears for a few months. So I don't know if that'll stay that way, but she's responded to his points in his letter. I just wanted to keep you guys updated.
Yeah, and I asked you earlier, but what is the end goal in all of this back and forth on the
It's changed. It's changed over the 2 years since I've been talking to him about it. Originally, they wanted 2 50-foot easements and a couple other things. And those other things have kind of gone away. And the 2 50-foot easements are still their main quest.
and those 2 50-foot easements were based on this discussion of a cattle pass, or in the absence of that, a grade crossing 50 feet away or something like that. Is that where the idea of the 2 easements comes from? 'Cause it sounds.
No, I think it makes it easier development for them as well.
Oh, okay.
Bill's been very helpful along with Robin Burner too.
I think that Merrill's response was very complete.
Town report deadlines, I already read that. One that's not on the list is, we've had another accident at the intersection of Memorial and Main, kind of in front of the avocado pit. So, we took the police chief and lieutenant out there along with Jeff Williams and, we met out there this week and came up with a couple more ideas that we can do to try to help that, because there's been two accidents in the last year there. So we put those pedestrian crossing lights, the push button, and they flash and they're highly visible. But we've now added an increased light. GMP just boosted the light wattage today at that location. And then we're having the vendor that installs those lights put on another flasher up above that's a little more higher.
Was the accident after dark?
It was during the tractor parade.
Oh, okay.
14-year-old that ran across the street or something, but still, we wanted to make it as safe as we can. I mean, so we've done these added things and hopefully that'll help.
Has there been any discussion of the parking in right there north on Main Street?
What, those two
In
spots?
front of Madcores, yeah.
That's a tough sight line.
It is. I mean, that would be the easiest solution, but then again, you're gonna take prime
One of-
parking.
One of them I think is actually a handicap. Yeah.
I think you're right, yeah.
No, it's really dangerous. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned the lighting, because I know this is not that specific intersection, but I witnessed another person almost getting hit crossing in front of Ty Basil, which I know there's not the flashers and everything there, but it didn't feel like there was any street light on that crosswalk, which this woman almost got hit right in front of me. So I was just pointing that out, that I'm glad that they're expanding the lights, because that certainly makes a lot of difference. I think looking at that parking space, I mean, the safety of our kids coming out of that street is really super important.
Yeah, and one thing that exacerbates the condition there is the access from Maple Fields.
Absolutely.
Got that access right next to that road, and there's a lot of friction there, so.
Could we ever close one of those accesses to Maple Fields?
Oh, it's in their permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pre-existing. It's been there forever, right?
Um,
Because it's not only the two entrances onto Main Street, it's also the one onto School Street as well. Or Memorial, sorry.
I wonder if we could ask them.
I don't think you'd get very far with that. People don't generally volunteer to give up.
No, and I know that even how they have to maneuver their fuel trucks into that space, which I know obviously if you can't do business properly or efficiently at the property, you should look at a different property, but it's always been a gas station. But I've seen the large tanker trucks have to maneuver through that School Street entrance in order to get to the tanks to fill. Which raises another question, obviously, if we do look at changing the direction of that road to one way, they're probably going to be pretty opposed to that.
And that's it for my town manager update.
Is there any other business? Not hearing any. There's no need for an executive session this evening. Heidi, you know what's next?
No, we have to say the next meeting is,
Okay, yeah, the next meeting is
Monday.
Monday, the 22nd.
Monday, the 22nd at 5 o'clock. Was it 5 o'clock or 5:30?
5.
5. I put it in. my calendar.
4:30.
I just don't remember.
Move to adjourn.
Okay,
Second,
all in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.